that stereotype of black people can't swim is a stereotype, and it has its weaknesses because there are a lot of black people that do swim. So yeah, it just taught me actually to think about this in a lot more of a kind of a positive light. Okay, let's speak to those people that do swim and find out what helps them or what engages them, as opposed to always being like, how do we save black people from their non-swimming lives? You know what I mean?
Hello, how you doing? Welcome back to the PE Insights podcast, conversations about physical education with me, your host, Nathan Walker. It's great that I can welcome you here again today. Brought to you, of course, this podcast by the fantastic team at PE Scholar. In today's episode, I speak with a good friend of mine, a fellow academic, Mo Jafar. I'll let Mo introduce himself as every guest does at the start of each episode. But I hope you enjoy this conversation. In today's chat, we talk about swimming. We talk about Mo's involvement in projects around Blacks Can't Swim and what he's doing to challenge and improve the experiences of swimming provision in his local area and beyond. We also talk about other PE Insights. It wouldn't be a PE Insights podcast episode without the quickfire questions at the end as well. So sit back, relax, grab a drink, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. Morning, Mo. How you doing, mate?
Morning, Nath. Good to see you. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks. Looking forward to this one. Really enjoy our conversation. So, yeah, really excited to have a chat with you. Let's talk about how you doing. How you doing? You've been busy in work?
Yeah, I've been busy. Everyone's been busy, haven't they? So
yeah.
But yeah, no, teaching 2 modules at the moment at the university, lots of research, supervising students, all the fun stuff that comes with being in academia, and then I'm also studying as well. So it's been very, very, very busy. I've also just, not recently, but last year, become a governor for my son's school as well. So that's been interesting, learning about that kind of role, and yeah, just been lots of different things, but all kind of converging towards physical education and education in general, to be honest.
You still taking your golf clubs out on the dog walk?
Every day, Nate.
Yeah. How's the swing coming on?
Do you know what? I'm getting better at managing situations. I would say that. I'd say it's up and down. I'm definitely getting a lot better at managing the situation, but it's still inconsistent, and I think that's what I love about it. It's just, I never crack in it. You're never ever going to get to a point where everything's perfect. But I love it. I'm obsessed. I've said to my friends, I'd probably, if I didn't have to play football and I could only play golf, I'd take that now.
Yeah. So you found it. Yeah. You're hooked.
Looking a pen.
I love that. That's class. For those listeners, he's got a golf pen. Yeah, I feel the frustrations with the golf swing. Mine's far from perfect. It never will be. Let's tell the listeners a little bit about yourself then, Mo, your journey into PE teaching and to where you are now.
Okay, yeah, I'll do the short version. So I loved PE from a kid, always loved PE, and I went to year 11 parents' evening. They said, what do you want to do? I was like, well, I like PE. And that was it. I'm going to be a PE teacher. So I knew very early on I wanted to be a PE teacher. Went to Kingston, studied sports science, had a fantastic time there. Took a year out of studying in second year and did a bit of coaching for West Ham Foundation, or West Ham in the community as they was called then. So I coached in schools, children's centres, parks, everywhere for like a good few years. I still technically employed by them now, but don't do as much coaching anymore. Right. And this is kind of like 2007 times. And then I ended up in a secondary school, coaching their football team and doing a kind of healthy living lifestyle with the health and social care group. Really enjoyed it. Became a learning mentor in the school, became an unqualified PE teacher in the school, went back to uni to do my teacher training at UEL, did the GTP, so I was really lucky actually. It was the last year of the GTP, so then I got paid and went to uni 1 day a week.
Yeah.
Became an NQT. The year after the NQT, became a head of year. That was massive kind of eye-opener for me in terms of the whole education system and line managing members of staff who been teaching for 15 years and heads of departments anyway, but really enjoyed it. Had a really good bond with students, and then just wanted to get back in PE. So I went back to PE. I ended up getting a job. Was really lucky at a school close to me as head of PE. So this is 2018, and I was head of PE there for 4 years. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Loved the school. Loved everything about the school. And then an opportunity arose at UEL. I wanted to go into academia. I've always had a long-term ambition. I thought I'd probably do that when I was a bit older, to be honest. But an opportunity, yeah. Sorry for you academics out there, but I thought it was an old person's job. And nothing wrong with it being an old person job, by the way. But essentially, yeah, I just took a punt, really. I had some good friends, Alex Becky and Shreyanne Lynch, who kind of pushed me to why not. And I didn't really think I could get the job. I haven't got a master's, I haven't got a PhD. I did a little bit of teacher training with the Havering Teacher Training Partnership. So I managed the trainee teachers there for a year. I've enjoyed it. So it's a bit of a taste. Anyway, long story short, I got the job and I've been there ever since. So that was 2019, April, coming up in April. Yeah, I'd have been there. What's that for?
Yeah.
2019? Bloody hell, yeah. So, yeah, been there ever since. Thoroughly enjoying it. I love it. Yeah, really happy.
And we had similar conversations at the time, didn't we? Because we were going through the process at a very similar time about, we want to make waves in academia, we want to work with teachers, we want to work in physical education broader. And we were worried about, are our experiences alone enough? And I think we're both two people that have been fortunate to show that they are enough and they can be enough. Sorry, excuse me. So in your current role in academia, because you are an academic, you're involved in research, that you can call yourself that now, I would say. You've always been passionate about swimming and the provision of swimming in education. Do you want to talk about that briefly, or would you want to dive into that in terms of like being a main topic today? So you've been involved in research recently around increasing opportunities for swimming in your area and wider areas, haven't you?
Yeah, the swimming's a weird one. So I'm not a swim teacher. I learned to swim very late. I learned to swim as an adult. And it's only because my uni lecturer, fantastic lecturer, was my supervisor, Jim Lover. He was a sports psychologist with the FA, and I remember saying to him, I want to be a PE teacher, and I joked, I said, I can't swim. And he's like, well, you better go and learn to swim. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, I didn't even think that was a thing. But so I learned as an adult, which was really difficult, but also kind of humbling as well. And just throughout time, I've taken kids to swimming in secondary school here and there, and you saw kind of the ones who could swim, fantastic, and the ones who couldn't swim were just hanging onto the side for the whole 12 weeks, and their joy when they actually got some confidence from it. And then as a head of PE, I started to dig a little bit deeper, think, okay, how many of our students can swim? And I spoke to a group of year 11s once, and they looked at me as if I was mad, like, sir, of course I can't swim. And I live in East London, I live in Essex, so a very diverse population. A lot of the students I spoke to were black, and they were just like, yeah, like it wasn't a thing. Anyway, I wrote a blog for diverse educators. Shout out to diverse educators because they're fantastic at kind of elevating voices. And I came across a film called Blacks Can't Swim, which was on YouTube by a good friend of mine now, Ed Akura. And I kind of included it in my blog and got chatting with Ed on Twitter, and that was the time when everyone was talking on Twitter, and it was a good space to be.
Glory days.
Yeah, the glory days. And Ed invited me to be in the third film, so the Blacks Can't Swim Rewind. So there's 3 installments of the film now, and it's also got another YouTube piece which is around changing the narrative and looking at adolescence. So I was in the third film, and that again just piqued my interest. And I just felt as a educator, you got a responsibility if there's an issue, especially a physical educator. If there's an issue within physical activity, there's something that's missing, there's something that young people can't engage in, then we should try to do that. That's what we're there to do, really, to provide opportunities. But obviously, moving into academia has given me an opportunity to do a little bit more research. So I don't know if I'll pause there and maybe.
Yeah, what were from your experiences then? Before we kind of delve into the research and what you're doing, what were some of the barriers that you saw were in the way What are some of the challenges that those young children are facing, particularly in the East London area?
Yeah, I think it's really multifaceted and complex. So there are a lot of swimming in reports that, and the classic kind of barriers are lack of facilities. Like, so there's,
Which
we
is a
know,
given, right?
we know after COVID there's been a lot of pool closures. So that is definitely an impact factor on whether you can access swimming. If your local pool is closed, then it's trickier to do. There's definitely some things around like generational fear. So if you have a parent who doesn't swim, you're less likely to go and swim. And we know that throughout time and throughout history that Black people especially have been oppressed with regards to swimming. So if you haven't got someone to take you, it's like any socialization in sport, really. Like, a lot of people go to activities because their parents will take them to, and for some that means swimming is just not on their radar to be able to go and do that. Cost is another thing, and it's not necessarily like just the cost of swimming. It's more about where you put your money and where you prioritize your money. So if it's a parent, you've already put them in for another club, then are you going to spend that money to go swimming? And actually, for swimming, it's quite tricky because if you are wanting your child to have lessons, and if you've got multiple children, that's going to cost you almost £150 a month for swimming lessons. And you need to stay in swimming lessons for a long period of time. Like, you can't stay in for 12 weeks, 10 weeks if you really want to learn to swim from zero. So there's cost, there's travel, there's facilities, there's cultural kind of barriers with regards to, especially within the Muslim community, with women-only sessions and how accessible, how many sessions are there available.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really is. It's really complex, and to be honest, for some kids, it's just something they don't really see as of value. But then I suppose I would argue they don't see it as value because they've not had the opportunities to engage. So there's a little bit of chicken and egg there. Like, they possibly would see more value if there was that affinity to it.
Do you, in your area, is it something that's on PE curriculum?
So yes and no. So it is on a lot of PE, and a lot of schools, especially primary schools, do take it very seriously and adamant that they'll have their swimming on. I did speak to like one deputy head of a mat, and they wanted to put it on, but their local pool had closed down, and then they weren't going to do it. So we know, like, from the swimming and data, there are at least like 20% of schools that do not put anything on or have like 0 to 10 lessons over a year. Actually, I think it's 0 to 6, because I think the average lessons that people have are around 12 to 20 over a year. So yeah, I think the schools, to be fair, especially in London and Newham, are really keen to do swimming. There's not like they don't want to do it. They see the importance of it. But yeah, it's just tricky to do, and it's hard to learn to swim. It's not something that takes a short space of time. It takes a long period of time. So
yeah. What was your involvement in the Blacks Can't Swim Rewind? What did that do for you? What was the experience like?
Yeah, so it's kind of a documentary film. It follows 2 young people who and there's no actors in these films as well. So Ed does a fantastic job of getting the community involved. So there's no one's a trained actor. These are people that have affinity to the story and are young people, and they're involved. And it kind of jumps to different people's perspectives, and he's kind of interwoven our kind of contribution to the conversation. So it just showed me that there's a lot of people who think about swimming. There's a lot of people in the Black community who really enjoy swimming as well. I think that's one of the things that I took away. You can definitely come away sometimes with a narrative that, and the title is provocative on purpose. It's to try and get that thing, but that stereotype of Black people can't swim is a stereotype, and it has its weaknesses, because there are a lot of Black people that do swim. So yeah, it just taught me actually to think about this in a lot more of a kind of a positive light. Okay, let's speak to those people that do swim, find out what helps them or what engages them, as opposed to always being like, how do we save Black people from their non-swimming lives? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the savior.
Yeah.
What? So then, with all this sort of messaging and your own experiences and being inspired by Blacks Can't Swim and that provocative question, and seeing the schools around you, when you were in the position to do some research, where did you go and what were you looking for?
So I'm doing a master's at the moment in social sciences with social justice, and my kind of main thing is to look at and speak to the young black people in primary school. Originally, I was going to speak to our university students because it was easier for access. But I did realize,
like convenient sampling.
Exactly. Yeah. But actually, I realized we need to kind of go where it's got the biggest bang for your buck. And at primary level, it's mandated in the curriculum to do swimming. So they're already engaging in swimming or not. But essentially, their voices have never been centered. Like, we're trying to create these interventions to tackle these problems. And these issues have been kind of here for a long period of time. But to date, there's no conversation, there's no interview, there's no giving young people who it affects the most a kind of contribution to the story. So that's what I'm trying to do in my masters. However, pragmatically, you end up talking on LinkedIn and meet people, and I met Kev Mosley, the CEO of SwimFin, and he's really passionate about swimming and water safety as well. But he's got this flotation device that he's been using for years. Lots of people have been using it worldwide and had some fantastic results with young people gaining confidence in the water. But it's never been seen in the school swimming program. As over the last few years, have been establishing that actually it's a bit like having a teaching aid, but you've only got one or two teaching aids, and there's one that could be used and it's not being used. It's like said the teachers, you're no longer allowed to use whiteboards. Okay, like the whiteboard is not going to be the thing that completely solves the whole issue, but it could help. You need as many tools as you can in your arsenal if you're going to kind of help a diverse community to learn. And I don't mean just diversity with regards to race or ethnicity, like in terms of just kids are different. They're unique.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you need as many tools anyway. So pragmatically, what we're doing is looking at just very simply, how does the swim thing impact on water confidence and competence with young people in a school swimming program? And we've got some dissertation students who are doing that this year for their final dissertation. And it's been really interesting so far. So I don't know if you want me to pause there, Nathan.
Yeah, my thinking was, when you talk about like student voice in those spaces, are you targeting particular students with a voice, or is it everyone in that setting is allowed to have a voice? I'm thinking, obviously, this is about young people that potentially don't have the opportunities to swim, young people that maybe, like you said, with young black learners that maybe, the parents aren't encouraging them to swim and all these types of things. Are you allowing everyone in the setting to talk to you and provide you that rich data, or are you targeting those conversations towards a particular learner?
Yes, so I think there's two things. I think young people don't have a say in their curriculum anyway. So the curriculum is mandated and we just kind of enact it and we just carry on and follow it through. And when it regards to the swimming curriculum, there isn't really any consultation with regards to young people. So I think first and foremost, regardless of race and ethnicity, all young people need to be able to make decisions, or at least be informed about something that is going to be affecting them. And I've been lucky to join a group who are looking at some work on Article 12, like the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, and that is a legal requirement. So it's kind of blown my mind because I kind of know about that stuff, but when you actually think about it like that, it's a legal requirement to take on board the viewpoints of the people you're about to make decisions for. And then secondly, it is about amplifying and elevating the voices that have been marginalized and not had any voice. So they come in, they're not like an evil, or I will speak to every kid and give them the opportunity. And then it's about kind of amplifying the black community and realizing that black community is not a homogenous group. Different connotations within each young person. So yeah, but essentially I'm going to be working in areas, so Barking, in Havering, going to be working in Newham, that are very diverse anyway. So to answer your question, mate, it's all young people need to be able to have a voice, but we do need to amplify the voices that haven't been sent before.
That's what I expected it to be. And just thinking, like, it's equally as rich for you if you hear the voice of a young privileged child who's had swimming lessons from the age of 3 and is a competent swimmer. It's equally important for you to listen to their story as well, to then help shape the findings and the messages that you're getting from the research, right?
Yeah, 100%. And we also know that a lot of young people will drop out of swimming. So speaking to those people that do engage with swimming for long periods of time, then get to a point and hit a wall, like, I don't no longer want to do this, is probably just as important, because imagine we speak to these black people and we say this is what's going on, and then we put them into a kind of context where actually they're going to end up leaving at 13, 14 anyway. It won't solve any problems. It just make it worse. If anything, we might put them in a situation that makes things a lot worse. So yeah, you've got to look at it holistically. And I think swimming is not unique in that sense with dropout. We know that young people drop out of activities at certain age ranges, and there's a common thing. It's not fun anymore. It's not enjoyable anymore. So that's the kind of the second part of research, is to look at a kind of gamified principles to underpin a curriculum. So that's the bigger piece as well.
Where are you at with that?
Yeah, nowhere.
Nowhere.
Just still unpicking the idea of, okay, how does this swim thing interact with you? How does it help you interact in the pool? How does it, what impact does it have on your experience compared to some of the other flotation devices out there, which we think and hypothesize that they kind of restrict movement. They kind of don't allow you to experience your buoyancy in the same way. Any flotation device. So I'm gone off on a tangent here now, so just stop me whenever you want.
All good, mate. Yeah.
But any flotation device is going to alter one's buoyancy. That's the whole point of the device. It's meant to do that. But we feel the swim fin will kind of do that in a way that is working with the person as opposed to against. So a noodle, for example, is going to give you big resistance and drag. So you can't adapt a noodle to change it to regards to the resistance and drag. It's going to have what it's got. And of course, little swim teachers out there will be saying, yeah, I can bend the noodle this and bend it that. But essentially, that's its properties. One thing we think the swim fin is worth exploring is because it kind of sits on your back, and the way it sits, when you are getting horizontal in the water, it starts to no longer have that same buoyancy effect because it's out of the water. The way I'm seeing it, it's like differentiation for free. I don't have to keep on tweaking it. It's going to go with the person. And that's one of the biggest things that kind of inspired me to be like, okay, if this has got these properties and can do this, why are we not exploring what it could do in a mixed group of school swimming, which is notoriously hard to teach anyway, has limited time. We should be exploring it. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment. I can go on more with regards to assessments if you want, but
it's I guess is there a call to action here then, Mo? Like, I mean, it sounds like it's a project that's going to have hopefully invaluable impact on young learners in and around pools and water confidence, which would be amazing. But where next? Is there a call to action? What do you need moving forward?
So essentially, it's been interesting actually, because we've been speaking with lots of different swim providers. So we've got we're just starting a study with Parkwood Leisure, and a big shout out to Parkwood Leisure, because they really saw the kind of potential in exploring this work, and I really like their attitude towards it. It was like, we need to explore school swimming because it's been so bad for such a long period of time. And that's not a criticism of any one person. It's just been notoriously hard to deliver school swimming effectively for all. We know that 1 in 4 kids will leave primary school not being able to swim, and that's self-report data, so it's probably worse than that, to be honest, and for some schools, but that's just the average. So we know there's an issue with school swimming. That's not controversial to say. And for Parkwood to jump on board and help us with the research is really fantastic, and Kev's been like unbelievable with his kind of determination and a lot of his own kind of initiative to get these up and running. But the call to action is to just be critical of what you're doing. One of the biggest things I've noticed, Leif, is I don't think there's a rigorous assessment kind of framework, not an evidence-informed one. So kids don't leave school swimming programs knowing where they are and what they can do next and where they are. They don't develop that kind of knowledge of their swimming competency. Essentially, you get, if you're lucky, some teachers will just get, this kids can swim 25 meters, these can't. So we're looking at swimming aquatic competencies as opposed to outcomes. It's not just about can you swim 25 meters. It's all the skills that underpin that to be able to be safe in and around water, but also to enjoy water as well. And we're also looking at perceived competence. So, and a big shout out to the ISEP early years SIG group and Christy Howes at Canterbury Christchurch, because they've done fantastic work on making a pictorial scale. So the kid will look at the scale of the different competencies, and they will choose where they think they are. And then we're doing the actual competency test as well. So the swim teacher will say, okay, well, I think you're able to do a back float, and the kid might think, oh, I'm not able to do it. And that discrepancy there of that conversation is so rich, because then if a kid understands where they are and they can really understand where then they're going to learn a little bit, well, hopefully they're going to learn a bit easier because they've invested in it and they've got an understanding of where they are. And yeah, the data we've collected so far, mate, it's unbelievable. Like the mean data, and I know it's mean, there's anomalies in there, but kids are pretty good at knowing where they are. I think it's like a 0.01 difference between the mark from the teacher and the mark from the kid with regards to their competency. And this is just a number of different skills. So yeah, I just think we need to have evidence-informed assessment tools. It can't just be a swim teacher on the side saying subjective. There's no standardization. So the data is really hard to make any accurate judgments for.
Nice, yeah, and that's really, really important. I guess it's that perceived competence as well, mate, that's going to drive them to the swimming pools outside of school, isn't it?
Well,
that self-perception of competence and therefore confidence might link to intrinsic motivation to go and find a pool to swim in.
Well, yeah, and that's the kind of way I'm thinking of it from an academic point, like a self-determination theory aspect of it. And we know that perceived kind of competence has a big impact on wanting to go and do extra bits. But the other thing I'm really kind of thinking about is just, again, centering their voice. Like, how often do they get to actually talk about their learning with regards to physical education? And then when it comes to swimming, it's such a kind of tricky space swimming because of the fear factor with regards to, like, you can die. Like, it's not a joke to say that if you get into water, you can die. So to be able to learn from that point of view, where some people are thinking, I just want to survive, you really need to give them a good knowledge of what they're doing. I think it's really important.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I'm reflecting on, I take my little man to swim lessons on a Thursday morning when I can, and my wife takes him most of the time. And he's working through his duckling badges and improving that water confidence of, simply just putting his face underwater, using a woggle or a kickboard, jumping in from the sides, bouncing around, blowing bubbles, those types of things are really, really important. But one thing that we can almost take from them is that it is quite like there is quite a lot of criteria that they've got to meet before they move up to the next stage. And they've got to have done it consistently as well. So it's not just, this week Ozzy put his face in the water. It's like every week Oscar can put his face in the water, so we're happy for him now to move up. But what the swim teachers at this local swim lesson, and shout out to them, they're really, really good, is they're asking him afterwards how he felt when he did that. So how was that, Oscar? Was that okay with your face in the water? How did you feel? And Oscar's like, yeah, it's okay. I've got my goggles on. I'm fine. And it's that they use almost to say, yep, he's ready to go to the next step. And that kind of rang true of what you're saying there, Mo, about having that real clear criteria, but then speaking and allowing them to share their voice around feeling and perception is really important when it's all about confidence.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think what you kind of highlight there is the difference between learn to swim programs and school swimming. Because learn to swim programs, most people stay in them, I think the average is like 3.5 years. There is that smaller group setting as well.
Yeah, it helps.
Sometimes you have like 1 to 8 with 2 teachers, or like 2 to 8 in the pool and stuff like that as well, if you're lucky. And then the time there's always this kind of big rush factor. But then you flip that to school swimming. I think if you were to look at school swimming as a model for what some schools are able to do, it's like, it's no wonder we've got these figures with regards to declining swimming competition. It's impossible. It's impossible to get that. So you need to maximize the time. You need teachers who have got that skill set, like you said, to engage with. But one of the other things I think I like with the perceived competence one is that you could potentially save some time here. So you could do that perceived scale in school, have it as an hour session with regards to the young people learning about swimming before they go, have that data to go to the swim school and say, here is our data from the perceived competency. And it's a starting point. It doesn't say exactly this is where we are, but that a lot of the first 2 lessons are spent with assessment to work out where the kids are. If you had something that you could say, okay, roughly this is where the kids are, let's go with these groups, and then you tweak from there, I think you'd save 2 hours of lessons, which is pretty huge. Like, I'm working with a school where I'm only going to do 6 weeks. So that's a third of the lessons you could save.
Yeah.
By working out where they are if you did this perceived scale before. So yeah, it's multifaceted, and if you've got some tools to help you with it and some play-based pedagogy, which I think is really important, it shouldn't just be at the ducklings level. It should be at every level.
No.
Many kids, 15-year-olds, are still at ducklings level. Like, I was at ducklings level when I was 19. So.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking, reflecting again on those learn to swim lessons, they are very much game-based. It's all play pedagogies. It's all about, chasing ducks around and floating on the ladybird from one side to the other, crossing the river. All things that we know would work well in primary school physical education settings that should happen in the pool as well. And even, as you said, older students in secondary as well.
So just keep an eye on as the stages go up, because you're going to see a steady decline in that. So my son's 5, and his lessons, and I like the lessons, don't get me wrong, but they're stroke based, and the last 2 or 3 minutes is the play. So it just becomes like, and that's what the research says, that the concentration, and regardless of where you look globally, the concentration of stroke technique is just overemphasized. It's too much. People are trying to get people to learn about stroke technique when they're not even at 0 yet with regards to being comfortable in the water. So as soon as we flip that and we do that on a grand scale, I honestly think we'd have a much better outcomes with regards to just engagement. And I don't say outcomes with regards to swim 25 meters. I mean that actually many students will want to go back, which is, I think, realistic to say that you could get from school swimming, that the minimum be that students want to continue and go back and try again, as opposed to, like in PE, the best thing about PE was when it ended.
Yeah, and that's really interesting you said that, because I spoke to Aussie's coach this week actually, and she said, I don't do any older than this. And I'm like, why? She goes, well, down here it's just about playing and joy and water confidence and safety, and and any older than this, and they start looking at, like you said, the stroke development, and the fun goes, and that's when people get switched off. It's the same as, I guess, what David Kirk's been saying about PE for decades. And like, when we place the focus on the sport and the skill specific techniques, we switch people off.
Yeah, and school swimming is embedded in that whole kind of discourse, isn't it? And I think we could go on for ages, mate, about it. But essentially, we're trying to unpick some things. Start off with what's the easy, low hanging fruit. So the simplest thing for me with regards to time was how does this flotation device work compared to others? Because I think it leans into some of these things we're talking about, like to have a shark fin on your back. It just screams out play-based pedagogy, and it gives you so many options to be able to do that, because you've got an opportunity to be safe in the water, naturally have a little bit of your own buoyancy and not be completely constricted, and it differentiates for free. So it's like a no-brainer to at least explore it. But
I love it. You know what, mate? I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. I know it's part of your research and your masters and stuff, and I know that's a big thing on your agenda right now, but I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes and what the findings are, and hopefully some impact you'll make in the local area and wider, hopefully.
That's the plan, mate. It's that's the plan. But
so mate, we've been talking for about half an hour, and we've not even talked about the stuff that we've written papers on, so ecological dynamics and non-linear pedagogy and adaptive teaching and constraints-led approaches. I think what we'll probably do is we'll set up another conversation for that, and have a part 2, because I'd love to dive into the quick-fire questions if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
Or else we'll be sat here talking for 3 hours and people will be switching off. So the first quick-fire question, and it's open to interpretation for everyone, so I'm looking forward to hearing your responses, because I know what you believe in. So your non-negotiables for positive experiences for all in PE?
It's a tricky one, this. I was thinking about it. I think the main thing that I'm really thinking about now is you have to be adaptable, And that means in your teaching style, that means in your curriculum. There just needs to be space for flexibility and adaptation. That needs to be inherent. I think that needs to be like, not just like, oh, we're going to adapt when something happens and react it, but I think people need to be proactive about, where do I actually put in adaptations and flexibility within a curriculum plan, because I don't see how else you're ever going to cater for something that's so dynamic. So young people are so dynamic. The environment that they're in is so dynamic, is always in flux. So you need to have something that works with that, and having rigid structures are good because you need some boundaries, don't get me wrong, but I think far too many people do the thing they're meant to be doing without actually realizing how that's landing.
So we talked before recording today a little bit around STEP as a principle, and it being like one of the most common, I guess, principles that PE teachers use in terms of adapting an activity. What are your thoughts on that?
So I've been thinking about this quite a lot recently, and it's because I'm doing a teaching and coaching module and working with young undergrads who are kind of teaching. And as a teacher trying to teach teachers, you're like, okay, how do I help you to understand this concept? And I think I've come to the conclusion, and maybe other people have as well, that I'm not sure STEP helps you to understand the how and the why. I think it gives you some ideas of what you could do. So I could change the space of an activity, whether that be badminton, whether that be whatever it could be, I could change the space. But if I don't understand why I'm changing the space or how to do that for a kind of certain learning intention, then I wonder how useful it actually is. Because what I see is a lot of people will change things based on kind of like what they've done. So I'll make the space bigger because that's going to make it a little bit. So football, for example, I'll make the space a bit smaller because that's going to make it a bit easier because the distances are a bit shorter. But actually, that makes it harder because you're on top of each other sometimes. So you never ever get like there's not a cause and effect with changing space and time, because people react differently to what you change, and everyone's intrinsic kind of, I was going to say intrinsic dynamics, but they're just, their capabilities means they're going to engage with that space or that change very differently. So I think we need to do more work on the how and the why. I don't know if there's anything kind of in our teacher training where people actually dig and drill down into that specifically. I like ecological dynamics because it makes me think about how and why I'm changing things, and it makes me be really observant as to when I change things, what happens. And there are no hard and fast rules, so you can't have like, okay, if you change this is going to happen for this group. But as over time, you can start to develop some kind of heuristics of like, these are where I'm going. So I think there needs to be some work done on that. I don't know if we've got time, but one thing I want to make people aware of is some work on a model called ecological task analysis, which is a really nice model of adapting activities, but you're allowing the child to choose how to do that. So the work was done by Alan Burton and Walter Davis and some other colleagues as well. I think it's Christy Ballan, and this is in the 90s. And they were talking about a constraints-led approach and using kind of principles from dynamical systems theory, where you kind of perturb the system and change it. But actually, what they were looking at was with young people with disabilities and how they need to be involved in the process. So there's some trial and error with it. It's probably too much to go through now with the guys. I'm still looking at the work, but if people are interested, just Google ecological task analysis. And there's a really nice step-by-step model. And what I like about it is not just like, it's not saying we need to just use hands-off approaches. It's a combination. So using these approaches for young people to find their best way to engage in an activity, and then using some direct instruction to help facilitate that. So it's not,
and that's the bit that stood out for me, that there's a balance in terms of like that spectrum of styles. There's that student-led and autonomy, but also there's that direct instruction to make sure that they're heading in the right direction. And also I think one of the key things that we kind of talked about is that STEP is often used by particularly novice teachers because they're maybe wanting to steer young learners in a particular direction towards the intended learning objective, for example. And which kind of makes sense because we've got objectives that are well sequenced and they've got purpose. But is the change you're making to the task at that point suitable for the learners in front of you, or are you doing it to move them towards an intended objective that they're not quite ready for yet, for example?
Yeah.
So it's just about, I guess, knowing that step is a thing, things that you can change, things you can manipulate, constraints perhaps that you are able to manipulate. But the most important thing is the justification as to why you're changing those things and what that's underpinned by.
Yeah, and I think that's spot on, Nath. I think you need to be a kind of investigator with these changes of these things. So what does it actually do? So you might change something to elicit a certain response, but does it actually give that response? So you need to have some real kind of trial and error and observe and see, and just go through the process and keep going and keep tweaking here and there. But I think a lot of our stuff just gets stripped down from NGBs and from previous coaching awards and stuff like that. So we end up just doing what we've always done. And I've talked for myself. I would change activities and change tasks and space and add less people, more people. But even, for example, adding more people to an activity, let's say an invasion game, doesn't always make it easier or harder. It's relative to what the actual intention of the activity is. What are you trying to achieve? A quick example, we had a uni group and we were doing handball. We were looking at defending and denying space, and they played a 2v2. So it ended up being this little really tight 2v2 game, lots of like close encounters. But actually, when you play handball in a big court, they're not the movement behaviors you need to have a kind of good defense. You need to have, like, some handball teams will play like a 5 and around the D and like a bit more of a zonal. So 2v2 won't allow you, or a zonal didn't emerge from a 2v2, but they saw that as the next progression from the 1v1 to 2v2, because that was like the logical one to do. Now the
logical progression.
Yeah. And the simple thing we did, I said, was, okay, just say the two defenders have to defend the line. So the two attackers had to get over the line with the ball. We said the two defenders had to defend the line. That's all they had to do. They just had to stay on that line. And it made it 10 times harder for the attackers. And then you can have a conversation about, okay, now look, how many times are they able to get through you? They can't get through you. It was like when they played their original game, 2v2, they just went everywhere and they just scored it was like 10-10 in terms of points. As soon as we changed that thing. So then you got an opportunity to say, okay, this is, if you put 2 and 2, it's fine, but then you're going to have to do some work around that. So, and I suppose that what that kind of brings in my mind is how these changes interact with each other. So just because you change the space, what does that now mean to the task that you already had? So they're never like, they're not individual, like, kind of parts. Change. Do you know what I mean? So you have to think about the whole thing, and that requires a lot of observations and being quite purposeful about what you're changing and checking.
Yeah. And also there's a nod there to representative learning design as well, making it, represent the end product. Adding that line represents a D in the game of handball, and it makes the task more relevant. Yeah. Well, before we dive into that rabbit hole, Mo, we've been for a long time. Let's go on to the next question.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
if you had or you have a mantra, what would your mantra be?
Yeah, my mantra, and I live by this, is some is better than none. So I always kind of struggle to get into things sometimes, but I'm like, okay, if I do some of it, it's better than me doing none of it. And it's the same with PE. It's the same with life for me. I might not be able to do everything, but I'm quite comfortable with that. And if I can do some, then it's better than none. So yeah, I always have that little thing in my head. I didn't quite go well as I wanted to, but some's better than none. So.
Yeah, like it. Potentially controversial one. If you could remove something from physical education, what would you remove?
I wouldn't remove anything particularly from PE. I would remove the need for PE to have to fit in with whatever discourse is out there for education at this moment in time. Yeah.
So I like it. Yeah, you used the example. I think we spoke about this before. You used the example of when you're in that whole school staff meeting and there's an agenda being driven and you just can't see how it fits in physical education or it's conflictual to what you're trying to do in physical education.
Yeah, and I think, like, there are obviously some things that carry over. There's not to say, again, like, PE is like out of this completely on its own, and this is like unicorn of a subject, because there are some things that are really important. And I've been doing a lot of reading on educational theories and stuff, because that's going to help support that. But at the same time, you do have to realize that like 100% of our subject is movement, and movement doesn't really care sometimes what's in the brain. It doesn't really care what you're thinking. Like, ask any amateur golfer. The amount of thoughts that are in my brain, the amount of things I've remembered, do not help me to move sometimes. And sometimes I move and I don't know how I'm moving so well. So
sometimes
like,
it makes it worse, right?
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you just find a way to interact, and you get better. So I don't think it's necessarily just about like, I think there needs to be a little bit more nuance with regards to these kind of things. And people say, okay, what does that look like for you? What does that look like in this space, in this context? And just respect the context is going to have some similarities, but also going to have some marked differences. And I just, a lot of the pushback with ideas doesn't come from PE spaces. They come from like, well, that doesn't seem very educational. But actually, for us, it's more natural to do some of those things. An example, a non-linear curriculum makes complete sense in PE, because learning and movement is non-linear. Doesn't need to be sequenced and structured, because we're not working towards an exam. GCSE PE, okay, you've got constraints there. There's a criteria, but we're working towards people finding their way to move in this world. So there is no set path.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks, Mo. Then there's 2 questions left. The next one is, if you've got a golden nugget of advice for someone about to embark on a career in physical education, what would you say to them? What do you say to them?
I say go and get experience. Yeah. Go and get rich and varied experiences. Go and experience things you've never even thought you needed to experience. Like, from personal experience for me, I remember going to a school and having to teach sports that I hadn't done before, because I was in the school for 10 years and we didn't do a lot of, for example, we didn't do a lot of cricket. We didn't do a lot of basketball. So even though I've been teaching for 10 years, my subject knowledge in those areas were really weak. And that's it feels quite nerve-wracking, quite anxious, especially when you're ahead of PE and you haven't got a skill set. And people assume that you should have a skill set. So I say to all our training students, what do you have no clue about? Go and find out about that and go and immerse yourself in it as soon as possible.
Yeah, sage advice. Brilliant. And the final question then for you, mate, is if PE could be or should be one word, or young learners should feel, what would that be?
Yeah, I think they should feel like they belong. That's it.
Nice. Yeah, I love it. And that kind of ties down, or comes back to your point around using their voice and that autonomy piece. But a sense of belonging is we all want it, and it's a lovely way to kind of sum up your thoughts. Are you keen to come down and have another drink and a meal at the Jack Rabbit? Maybe we could get Alex back in.
Well, I might be down actually. I might be down Bridgewater in a couple of weeks, but I think that's still a little bit further on from you. But
yeah, it's a little bit. It's still, yeah. I'm right down the bottom.
Yeah, I think everything's around the corner when I'm like heading that way, but actually it's not.
But still another 2 hours in a car, that mate.
Yeah, I'm hoping to attend the swimming CPD there.
All right.
See how some other people do some swimming, but I'll be down. I love to travel, and always good to catch up with you, mate.
Yeah, and you, mate. And last time you were down, and I know Alex is our dear friend, is never going to come on this podcast, but it'd be good to catch up with him again soon if he does listen to the last 5 minutes of this one. Mate, thanks for coming on this morning. Genuinely, always love having a conversation with you, and it's we've been with each other on this journey into HE for some time now, and I appreciate our sort of professional friendship, and that's really important to me, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this project goes for you. And shout out again if anyone's interested in supporting and advocating and being an ambassador for Mo and his project around improving the quality and experiences of swimming, particularly swimming in PE, then do reach out to him. I'm sure you'd be open to have a conversation.
Yeah, no, 100%. And a big thanks to you, Nath. I appreciate you kind of giving me the time. And I really appreciate the work you do with this. I know it's not easy to put this stuff together. I know how much time and effort it takes to do, but it's really valuable. So thank you for doing that and for the voices that you elevate. And yeah, always been a pleasure. We started this kind of journey from secondary into academia together. So yeah, looking forward to see where we go next, mate.
Cheers, Mo. Absolute legend. Speak to you very, very soon.
Yeah, cheers, Nate. Take care.